All right, we are live. All right, so I think people are going to start trickling in bit by bit. If you can hear us, please just let us know in the chat. Welcome, everybody. Excited to get this show started. We're just going to give folks a few minutes to join, but let me know in the chat if you can hear us. Right.
I can hear you fine.
I can hear you too. All right, so I'm going to be watching out for your comments. Just, so for those of you that are watching on YouTube, just, indicate in the chat. If you are on LinkedIn, you can do that in the chat as well. All right, so I'm going to wait for the first chat to come in just to verify that we are live. And I'm also going to check on LinkedIn. All right, I see that we are live. Awesome. Cool.
Okay.
All right, so welcome everybody to this highly anticipated event. Yeah, hey Justin, thank you for sharing. Yeah, hi. All right, good. Hey David, awesome. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to this episode. So, hi everyone. Welcome to the PM Therapy podcast. Now, the event is titled "Is PMI Ruining Project Management?" Right. So, what we haven't done a show like this before. So this is going to be a discussion. And I'm hoping to go for like a healthy debate. So that's the idea. It's kind of like siblings fighting. So it's fighting but with love, right? So this is so that's sort of what I'm going for. But before we do that, I'm just gonna introduce. We're just going to introduce ourselves. So, Tom, I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself, and then I'll do that, and then we can start the conversation. All right. So, Tom, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, I'm Tom Kirkman. I've been in project management for decades. I was 2 decades in Southeast Asia, based in Malaysia, where I was primarily in oil and gas. Before that, I was all over the U.S. I was in New York City. I've done a lot of things in life. I grew up on a dairy farm. I'm back in the U.S. now for about 5 years, I think. So since I've been in the U.S., I've switched mostly from oil and gas to electric utilities. So my last place, I was managing $100 million in projects scattered all over the place. So for a long time, I was a volunteer moderator on the largest oil and gas forum in the world, Oil Pro. Some people know me from back then, but it got shut down by a competing website, which I'm not going to name. And I've lost all the forums to write on. So now I'm writing on LinkedIn, where I have a lot of fun. And those who know me, I'm going to try and behave here because I tend to joke around a lot. And I like to use absurd surrealism as a tool to try and gently coax people to think. So I'll randomly go back and forth between absurd surrealism delivered deadpan style with actual serious stuff. When I talk about energy or the environment, typically it tends to be fairly serious, but it's trying to promote critical thinking and getting people to just stop accepting blindly anything that they're being told, because some of the stuff I write is completely absurd, but it's delivered totally deadpan. So here in this podcast, I'm going to try and stay serious, and I mean what I say. So I'm not here selling anything. I'm not here pushing anything. I'm here to try and get project management back on track, because my primary thesis here is, think of engineering and Elon Musk's rocket designs. Every new rocket design they come up with is streamlined and simplified. Project management, I've read PMI.
Sorry, Tom. Sorry. Just before we, because I just want to make sure that I introduce myself, and then we just set the right context before we move forward, right? So, sorry for that. So, so Tom has introduced himself. I am Mukhtar. I have been practicing for over 15 years now. I have worked in oil and gas. I have worked in technology. I've worked in real estate, and I've also worked in healthcare. All right. So I'm looking forward to having this fun conversation, fascinating conversation. But just quickly, I can see some of you are already voting. So I put the link to the poll in the chat. I don't know if everybody can see that, but I'm also presenting the poll, so you can just go to Slido. There's a code there, and please go ahead and just vote. So we just want to get a sense of where people are beforehand, and then afterwards we're gonna do the same vote. All right. So yeah, so please go ahead and do that. Before we jump into the debate proper, I would like to get a sense, or we would like to get a sense of where people are tuning in from. So can you just put that in the chat, just where you're tuning in from, while we get things warmed up and let people jump in. All right. Okay, so while people are doing that, one thing that I would say is that the polls are coming in, so it looks like this is evenly split so far. So, okay, right now, about 50% disagree, 33% undecided, and 14% agree. Okay, all right. So a lot of people are disagreeing. Wow. So, but it might change, right? So Tom, it might change, right? So after the discussion, things might change. So let's see. But the votes are still coming in. So by the way, please feel free to vote. So I see people are tuning in from Toronto, from North Texas, from New York, from Nigeria, from South Africa. Whoa, nice. From St. Vincent and Grenadines. Wow, I'm not sure I know where that is. That's so where's Tom? Do you know where that is? St. Vincent?
Nope, I don't know where Grenadines is.
Wow, that's amazing. Chanda, if you can tell us where that is, that'll be awesome. Ali is from Good Luck. No, I'm just kidding. He's not from Good Luck. He's wishing us good luck. Chinaza is from Lagos, Nigeria. All right, so people are spread all over. Amazing. So please don't forget to go ahead and vote. All right. So now I think we can now delve into the debate proper. I'm still gonna leave the Slido on, but I will take it down just so that the audience can focus. So the way this is gonna work is that there are about 3 claims. So the main contention is PMI ruining project management, right? So that is the main contention. Now, underneath that, there are going to be 3 claims, and the first claim is that PMI is overcomplicating project management. So these are Tom's points, right? So number 1 is PMI has overcomplicated project management. That's the first claim. We're going to talk about that. The second claim is that the PMP is a cash grab, right? So that's the second claim. And then the third claim is that project management is really about managing people and not processes, right? So these are the 3 claims, and hopefully we'll be able to get through all 3 of them. All right, so now I am going to stop sharing the slide. So it looks like 56% disagree that PMI is ruining project management, 33% are undecided, and 11% agree. So yeah, about 33% is up for grabs. Tom, you ready?
Yep. All
right, let me stop sharing my screen. Okay, so Tom, the first claim that PMI has overcomplicated project management. Why don't you talk more about that and support your case?
Okay, I've been reading project management books for a couple decades now, and I started off reading PMI, 4th edition, then 5th, then 6th, then 7th. So I currently use 6th edition. I don't like the 7th edition at all. But before I read the 4th edition, which actually wasn't a very good edition, just that it wasn't coherent enough, I read books by other organizations, which off the top of my head from 20 years ago, I can't remember, an International Association of Project Managers. I don't know what the acronym was. But there's also industry specific. There's a book called Project Management for Oil and Gas, which I've also used. It's very, very specific to the industry. And I've read other books on the topic of project management that are not by PMI, and they've all got valid points. So 4th edition of PMBOK, Project Management Institute Body of Knowledge, was not very good. I'm going to back up a little bit. So there's a guy that I know, one of my LinkedIn connections. His name is John Schurr, with 2 R's at the end, Schurr. he was a contributor to the very first edition of PMBOK. And it was basically a 3-page summary of what project management is. And he still maintains, and he worked at Boeing for a long time, he still maintains that the basics of project management can be put on a 3-page PDF. You can summarize what project management is. And currently the 7th edition of PMBOK is, I can't remember how many hundreds of pages long it is, but it's just getting progressively complicated. So I started alluding to this a little bit earlier. The example that I gave with Elon Musk and designing rocket engines and literal rockets to outer space, every design that they come up with is simplified and streamlined. It becomes less complicated, which is what engineering is supposed to be doing. You should be taking the bugs out and smoothing things out. Whereas currently, what I've seen from reading 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th edition of PMBOK is it's getting progressively more complicated. It's going in the wrong direction. So the more complicated something is, the more chances there are that something's going to go wrong. So I've seen this happen in companies as well. Every time there's a mistake, they come up with a new rule to make sure that that mistake doesn't happen again. But they don't get rid of the old rules. So my point of contention is, I have nothing against PMI as such. I would just like to go back to the 6th edition, which I believe was the apex of what project management is supposed to be. The 7th edition abruptly changed, and I don't like the way it is. So hold on, I had some points here. So here's something. Project management body of knowledge, PMI's body of knowledge. There's a glossary in there. They've copyrighted the definitions. I'm really unhappy about that. I compile technical definition glossaries on my own time, and I've done numerous glossaries, technical glossaries over the years. Each one usually takes me about 3 years to compile on my own time. So I've got one, which is a combination of project management and electric utilities. And that's how I learn a subject. I compile all the technical words and acronyms that go with it. So I can't give out my glossary for this because Project Management Institute has copyrighted their definitions for project management. And guess what? Reading books before PMI was actually formed, I recognize some of these project management definitions. They did not come up with them, yet they copyrighted these definitions. They did not come up with all of these definitions. And I'm going to be very careful to say that I believe this is true. I don't want to get sued for libel by PMI. And I'm assuming someone from PMI is probably listening to the podcast. So my request is, would you please unlock and make widely available the basic definitions for project management? So for 2 decades, I was in Southeast Asia for oil and gas and project management. And I'm used to dealing with...
Sorry to interject. So can I just respond to some of the questions and then some of the points that you made? So just going to your first point that PMI has made project management more complex. Well, first of all, let me back up and just say I'm not the spokesperson for PMI. So I'm doing this on my own, and I think that PMI is not a perfect organization. I think that there are lots of things that can be improved. Well, I think that there are things that can be improved. So I'm not the spokesperson for PMI, and I'm my affiliation with PMI is that I have my PMP, right? So just want to state that off the bat. But I want to have this conversation so that we can, because I think that your opinion, Tom, many people do share your opinion, right? So I want to give voice to that so that we can have a robust discussion. Now, just to your first point, I think there are a few things that I want to respond to and also clarify. Now, when you say PMI is just making project management more complex, like you cited the 5th edition, the 6th edition, the 7th edition, so it's just becoming more and more complex. Now, my take on that is that the world is changing. The world is becoming more complex, right? And we have to sort of evolve to meet that complexity, right? And this is not unique to PMI. One example is the CPA exam that accountants take. It was changed in 2024, right? Because we have things like AI coming. So now they actually mandate and they require that accountants are digitally they're skilled and they're trained to handle emerging technologies, right? So that's just one example. Another example is the bar exam. So the bar exam is going to change in 2026, I believe, and it's similar. Like they're taking into account the new technologies that are developing, because AI is really upending different professions, different industries. So what's happening is that different professions, different serious professions, are keeping up with the ever-changing world, right? So I think that PMI is just behaving like a very is behaving just like any other body that tries to standardize and regulate and look after a profession, right? And I think that one thing that us PMs have is like, I think that you can't eat your cake and have it. Like, we complain that, oh, we need to be taken seriously as a profession, but yet when the body is trying to behave like a serious profession, we complain like they were trying to get complicated. So just like the legal profession, just like medicine, just like accounting, just like all these other professions, there's a standard that sort of governs how the profession is practiced, and that evolves with time. So that is my response. I'm gonna just allow you to respond to that.
Okay, I can see your point. It's a valid point. My take still is, if I was brand new and learning to be a project manager, I'd probably throw in the towel. It is not the same way when I started. I was just thrown into project management sort of by default a long time ago. We sort of had to learn as I went along. So it's become so complex. It would be nice if maybe PMI would add too long didn't read intro to this of what is the basics. Can you, that it goes back to the old saying, if you can't explain to a 3-year-old the basics of what the subject is, then you don't understand it. So the PMBOK itself, it reminds me a lot of Wikipedia, and it just keeps getting more and more citations and more complex, and it assumes you already understand everything. If you ever run across Wikipedia pages where it's like you start reading and it's like you sort of give up after a while, that's kind of the way I sort of view the 7th edition, where I didn't have that same issue with the 6th edition. So an introductory that gives a high level overview and a simplified version for people who have never done project management would, I think, help resolve some of this. It's just, again, I'm going to go back. I'm used to organizing and simplifying things because I'm used to dealing with English as a second language for people in the oil and gas industry and projects. So all the contracts, all the emails, all the meetings, English is the second language. So I make it a point not to use big words or overcomplicated sentences. I try and keep things as simple and to the point as possible so people don't misunderstand. When people misunderstand something, they make mistakes without realizing it because they don't know that they are not understanding something. So acronyms is one of the big problems. I'm not going to get off on another tangent on that, but understanding the words being used is key. And PMI seems to have this distinctly American viewpoint of everything must be done in English. And the thing is, in the oil and gas world, it's true. Everything in the oil and gas world is done in English in every country around the world except France. France, they do everything in French. Apart from that, no matter what country in the world you go to, all of the specs use either American standards or British standards. Doesn't matter where you go. Russia, Iran, Australia, North Korea, everything is done in oil and gas in English. All the technical specifications are in English. So they've managed to standardize a lot of the things in the oil and gas industry around the world. And it would be nice if PMI could actually do that, but do it in a way that takes into account, can you make it simpler?
Yeah,
rather than in excruciating detail that people just sort of get lost.
Right. No, so I think that's a valid point, and let me just respond to that. By the way, please, if you're watching this, if you have comments, opinions, please put them in the chat as well, so that we can bring them. Like, this is not just a conversation between me and Tom. This is a conversation between all of us, as PMs in this profession, right? So just a couple of things. So I think maybe we need to be very particular about what we mean by complicated, right? Because if we say, okay, it's a matter of, it's only in English, we need to make it more university university available. To me, that is not a problem of complexity, right? That is a different problem. And yes, I would agree with that. I mean, I think most of the world is not English speaking. So if we don't have materials in other languages, I would say this is something that should be done. I don't know if we have PMBOK in many other languages. I mean, there are people from all over the world, so they can comment. If you have PMBOK in Spanish, in different languages. But yes, I agree to that point. But just going back to your point as to PMI is just making project management more complex. I don't really. I think that what PMI is doing is that it is giving you the tools to be able to manage projects with varying levels of complexity, right? From planning a vacation to launching spacecrafts into space, right? And there are varying levels of complexity. So I don't think it's really so I could be wrong, but this is my understanding of what the PMBOK does. Like, it's not supposed to be a rule book. It's more like a toolbox. You pick and choose what you need, right? I've been doing project management for a while. I might get in trouble for saying this. I don't always do a project charter. I don't always like to do a project charter, right? And some people don't like that, but many people that I've worked with, I believe that they will tell you that I've been very successful at projects, right? And also, I think a part of that is that there are just some environments where you don't just mention the word project charter, because you will just lose credibility and all that. So my response to that is that I think that the world is complex. I think that the world is getting more complex. And I think that what PMI is trying to do is that it's just trying to provide the framework, the processes, the tools to be able to handle any project with any degree of complexity, right? So I think that there is a space for the 3-page document that you mentioned, right? Like, we can boil project management down to these 3 slides. But I think that we also need the other extreme, where it's like we have the tools to be able to manage complex projects, very complex projects. Does that make sense to you? I'm curious what
it actually does. So the thing you're actually making me think, and that's good. I like it when people poke me to think, because I like to poke other people to get them to think. So this is going to be a good discussion. So what I would suggest is, can we coax PMI to come up with a shorter, simpler overview of the basics of project management, so people can get the bird's eye view of, here's all the basic things that needs to be done in a simple, easy to understand format. Have that at the beginning of the next edition when they come out, because there's going to be another edition. This is how they make money. And I hear that they want to double the amount of PMPs in the next 5 years or something. I don't know, it's just a rumor. So that wouldn't surprise me, because but to do that, it's daunting. You've seen how big that the book is. I mean, physical book, it's huge.
Right.
So kick it off with a bird's eye, easy to understand overview that people who have never done project management before can get their head around. What are the basic things that need to be done for projects, whether the project is big or small? Here's the basics that are going to apply to most projects. That's kind of what's missing. Then you can have the complicated Wikipedia type extended, zillion pages with, references and all the stuff to everything under the sun. Right. You can have that as a reference, like an encyclopedia, but what's missing is the overview. There's no simple overview anymore that I can see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing but I'm just used to explaining things to people as a second, English is a second language. I've done it for so many years. So when I have to go out of my way to uncomplicate things and put it in an easy to understand format, it's like, hey, PMI, can you rethink this a little bit? So even the definition, there's about 1,000 definitions currently.
Before we go to the definition, can I just respond to that point? Because I think that's such a, I 100% agree with you on that point, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that we need to be able to handle complexity, but at the same time, we need to be able to navigate and direct people as to, okay, this is what you need for this particular circumstance. Now, I guess my question is, do you think that that is the role of PMI? Because typically what has happened is, people like you, people who train and coach PMs, they are the ones who help those PMs navigate the PM block, right? So is this, I guess my question is this the role of PMI, or should it be left to the trainers, the people that sort of, are in the industry of training, coaching to handle that? Does my question make sense?
Yeah, but let me back up a little bit. That makes sense, but let me point out something else. Why is there so much emphasis on training people how to be project managers? It's become so complex that you need, basically, in order to get to PMP these days, you have to pay money to learn how to do this, to learn how to take the test. Because if it doesn't matter how much you know, it's like, again, that's kind of the point I'm making. If you need to take college level courses in order to get the PMP cert, it's like, okay, it's sort of like getting a master's degree, but it's like, does that convert to the real world? Why can't there be another form of certification? And that would probably come from other organizations outside of PMI. There's actually a lot of project organizations outside of PMI. A new one's just started up on LinkedIn called PM Playbook, which I just cited on one of their videos discussions yesterday. So it doesn't cost anything, and they're basically teaching new PMs. It's like, cool. I expect PMI to be like an encyclopedia custodian of all this stuff. And it's like, okay, I will concede it's probably going to continue getting more complicated, but what's missing is the prerequisite of the overview so people can wrap their head around what is project management, the basics in a non-technical way. So you don't scare off people who are just new to project management and they go, oh, I can't do this.
Right.
And learn how to do all this stuff.
Right. No, and I mean, the audience can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there are these foundational courses out there, like, project management 101, and I think that they're normally free, like with with a PMP, with a PMI membership. So I believe that exists, but I 100%, I'm just going by 100% agree with you that the PM block is quite tough to navigate. And yeah, maybe there should be some sort of what's the word, like guide or precursor or pre-read, to help people navigate that. Because I know when I was studying for the PMI, for the PMP, I was told, do not read the PM block. Go get another. I think I used Rita. Like, go get Rita. Rita would help you make sense of all of that, right? So but this is why I asked the question. Like, is it the role of PMI to help sort of people navigate that, or is it the role of other people? That's the trainers and all of that. And I take your point and saying, okay, you also have issue with that. Why do we have this industry around certification? But I think that this now leads into our next claim. But before we do that, I just want to look at what the audience is saying and let's respond to some of the questions. All right, so I'm just gonna. So Justin is saying, so in addition to the PM block, new versions are not removing old obsolete ideas. It's becoming less accessible with fluff or excess. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. I think this just ties in with what you were saying. But to be honest, like, I don't know if I can speak exactly to the claim that they don't remove old obsolete ideas. So I don't want to. I want to be honest there. But yeah, if that's the case, I think that when we evolve, yes, we should have relevant ideas, right? So if that's the case, then I would say maybe this is a room for improvement. All right. So thank you, Justin, for chiming in there. Also, this is from Justin. Plus, PMI has taken common terms in the project management field and legally taken ownership of them.
Yes.
So I think this,
I
yeah,
believe
this.
so. I don't want to get sued by PMI. I don't for libel or anything, but in my view, realize I've been reading books about project management from all sorts of different companies over the decades that I've been doing this, and it's like if you read PMBOK, all those definitions are copyrighted, and you're not allowed to reproduce them without permission. And I find that unacceptable.
Right. And I think that I agree that if a term is common and maybe it wasn't invented or brought up by PMI, then I feel like if they are copywriting that, then maybe that should be looked into. But I don't know, so I can't quite speak to that. But what I would say is that this idea of copywriting is not unique to PMI. Like other standardization bodies, other certification bodies, like they copyright their materials, right? So I don't think PMI is doing anything different, when they copyright their materials, their concepts, and all of that. But I think that if they're copywriting other things that were not originated by them, then I think that yes, that needs to be looked into. But I think that it will be up to PMI to respond to that.
This is only my opinion. I can't prove it. And again, I don't want to get myself in hot water. It's just, this is the way that I honestly view this. I've read some of this stuff. It's like, I don't know. It seems to me it would be better to simply release them to the general public for people to use. I'm really, really big on words, understanding words. And to me, it's key to any subject to understand all of the key words to that subject. If you don't understand the key words, you're going to make mistakes and not realize it because you don't realize that you don't understand something. So the definitions, and there's about 1,000 in PMI. Why can't they make it so you can't even you can't even copy and paste them from the PDF, even when you have a licensed copy, which I find bizarre.
Tom, can I maybe try and play devil's advocate here? So if these are not copyrighted, then these definitions become loose, right? And people can use these definitions to mean different things. So doesn't it make sense especially for technical terms, and for a field as complex and as what's the word I'm looking for? Because the project management profession is a very serious profession. I know, a lot of times people don't always take us seriously, but a lot of people are involved in projects that are life or death, right? So given that this profession is a very serious profession and there are technical terms that we use, so shouldn't those be copyrighted and be locked in?
How about keep the copyright, but allow people to use it, allow people to copy and paste it? I don't know. When I compiled my own glossary, I had to manually type the whole thing. It's very time consuming because you can't even with a licensed copy, you can't copy and paste from the PDF. That function is not allowed. So, words are really, really important to any subject, the key technical terms. And if you don't understand the key terms in any subject, it's going to have a really hard time and people are going to make lots of mistakes. So again, my request to PMI is, can you unlock and allow people to, use these definitions, maybe give credit where it's due? I don't know. It's just some of these definitions, in my view, they did not come up with. So how are they allowed to copyright? It's kind of a weird question to ask, but it's like some of these definitions are so plain. Why are they allowed to take ownership of it? I don't get it.
Right. Yeah, no. So I think that's a separate issue, and just like I mentioned, I think that if they didn't come up with it and they're copywriting it, that needs to be looked into. But the other thing that you mentioned, where it's like, okay, I kind of got the sense that you considered that words matter and words need to mean the same thing to everybody, like some of these technical terms, right? So I guess my understanding is that your point of contention is make those terms accessible to people. Like, you shouldn't have to compile your own list of your own glossary list, right? It's like, all right, they can copyright it if they came up with it, but it should be made available to everyone. Is that
you have to buy it. You have to purchase the glossary, which again is, you see, it's like you're taking ownership of these words and you are holding on and not allowing the project management profession to thrive, because you have to pay a fee to understand the words that are used in the industry. And different project management organizations, because there's a lot of them in UK, EU, there's a bunch of them. You can find them online. Some of them are going to have different definitions. So if PMI wants everyone to use the same definitions, then everyone should be able to have access to those definitions without purchasing those words.
No, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. And thank you for bringing that, Justin. So let's move on to the next. Well, we have lots of comments. All right, I'm just gonna pick one. All right, Noah says, I like the way PMI and PMI OGA is teaching the PMI PMO CP.
What's CP?
It's more flexible, adaptable, and allows for free thinking, problem solving, which reflects the real world. So to be honest, I'm not sure I'm familiar with the terms. So if you can clarify with some of the abbreviations, if you can clarify, that would be helpful.
I don't know PMOGA either.
Right. All right. So let's move on to someone else. I love that idea. Oh, I'm not sure. We moved on. I don't know what idea. I recently received the CAPM and it feels like a lot. Making it accessible and making it less daunting on ramp with perhaps more milestones. Yeah, I think both of us agree to that. All right. Let me see. Are there more? So PMI owns words now.
Yes, that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think this is up to PMI to respond to this. So let's see. Okay.
That's why I can't give away my technical glossary. I've combined, it's in Excel. I've got 2 tabs on it. One is just for project management, and it's basically all of the definitions from PMI, which I hand typed one by one, and for my own use, which is allowed. Under copyright, you are allowed to make personal copies for your own use. So I don't give it out to other people because it's copyrighted, and I would like to be able to. It's like, because I've also got on the second tab, and I've actually divided up. I've made a separate one for electric utilities, so I've had to divide it up. So when I try and teach project management for new people in the electric utilities, I can't give them my glossary which has the PMI definitions in them because it's copyrighted. So it's like it's very, very frustrating to me. Why can't I give those out? Because they want people to buy the book. That's wrong in my view.
Yeah, I'll let PMI comment on that. So Noah McLeod, I want to believe that these questions are closer to world scenarios. All right. Okay. So I guess this ties back to Noah's point. So I guess when Noah gets a chance, he can clarify what he meant with those abbreviations. Okay. So now, Tom, can we move on to the next claim, which is the PMP is a cash grab?
This is what I'm saying. It's all tied around money. So you have to have an annual license. The PMP cert is only good for 10 years, which I understand. It's not like a college degree. And the thing is, I wouldn't mind. I don't have a PMP cert, but I don't want to get one for the 7th edition. I wouldn't actually mind going back and getting a PMP cert for the 6th edition. And again, I still use PMI's PMBOK 6th edition as my project management Bible. And I think 7th edition, I don't like the 7th edition, we put it that way. So I have no relevant interest in getting a PMP cert based on the 7th edition because I don't agree with it. I like the 6th edition much better. I don't get to pick and choose though, because I'm not the organizational body that provides PMP certification. Okay. I don't know what you're taking on.
Yeah, no. So just before we go to that, like I guess the claim that the PMP is a cash grab, I feel like maybe can you just help me understand why you believe the PMP is a cash grab?
you not only pay to take the PMP course, normally you're going to have to pay to take the training in order to learn how to pass the test.
Okay.
So and from what I understand, anyone, no matter how good they are, can't just take the PMP test without taking that training because it's that complicated. And since you mentioned that a little bit earlier, it's like, people were telling you don't read PMBOK in order to pass the PMP. It's like, well, something seems to be wrong there. So you have to use other less complicated books that explain PMBOK. So it's like, okay, so we need to read project management, for dummies in order to understand PMBOK, in order to get your PMP cert. Do you understand? So cash grab is, I throw that out, but it's like, why is there not a way for people to read a book and understand it and take some sort of test and get some sort of certification? LinkedIn has all these, you do these online courses and you can get a cert, which you can attach to your LinkedIn profile that, yay, I did this course on LinkedIn. Why can't there be something comparable for like a level below PMP for ordinary people who want to learn how to do project management? Then
Right.
it would be less. So you not only have to pay to find the definition so you can understand, you have to pay to buy the PMBOK, which is, I don't remember how much it is, and that thing is huge. It's a tome. And then you have to pay a trainer to guide you through how to take the test, and then you have to pay to take the test. So there's payment along every way. You want to understand project management? You want to learn the words? I'm sorry, they're not free. You have to purchase them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense, and it's a.
I'm sure other organizations and in industries probably do the same thing, but I'm familiar with project management, and it's just a sort of a bone of contention. Why isn't there a way for people who are actually very skilled in something to get some sort of formal recognition without having to pay a lot of money?
Yeah. No.
If you really want to promote project management, I don't know, this come up with some sort of like a simplified way for ordinary people to say, hey, I've read this book and I understand it. So I don't know. There's only this hill of either you have a PMP or you don't. And I get it, just like a certified public accountant, I get it. But more and more, I don't know, it's getting too convoluted and so complicated, and then you got to redo it again. I don't know. I just don't like the way it's set up. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you sharing that. So here is my take. And I think you mentioned this point. So this is not unique to the project management profession, right? The legal profession, you have to pay for the certification. You probably have to pay for renewals. You have to pay for prep and all of this if you wanna pass, right? CPAs is the same thing. In medicine, like I don't know that there are professions where certifications don't cost money, or at least like the standard for the profession. So I think that this is not unique to project management, and I think that also, just thinking about this logically, like there is effort that goes into ensuring that certification maintains relevance, right? For it to be credible, for it to be worth something, like there's a whole body that I believe that just goes into that, and that's not free. That costs something, right? So I think that there needs to be a fee for it, and this leads me to my next point. For a lot of people, the PMP is an investment, right? On average, I think a PMP holder earns about 33% more than a non-PMP holder, right? So for a lot of people, like that is worth the investment, right? So imagine instead of making $100,000, you're making $133,000, and you're just going to invest a couple of thousand at most. So it's really not, it's not robbery, it's ROI, right? That's how a lot of people are thinking. Also, I saw this recent stat from, I think Pierre posted this just recently. There are about, let me see if I can find that. I think there are about 1.6 million PMP certified holders. Yeah, there were about 1.6 million PMPs last year. This year, they're about 1.8, right? So that number is going up. About over 150,000 new people are being certified. And I think that you're just going to keep on seeing this trend. And this ties into this thing about that in 2030, we're going to need 25 million new project managers, right? And a part of that is because, a lot of seasoned professionals are going to retire. So if you're going to have this influx of new project managers coming in, we still need it's more important for us to have that standard, right? That says, okay, this is a gold standard for the project management profession. It's not for the project management profession. It's not perfect. It's still going to keep on evolving, but at least this is a standard. And now this leads me to my third point. Many of us are accidental project managers. I was an accidental project manager. I didn't read project management, right? And there are many people that are listening that maybe were teachers or what have you, but they somehow came into this profession, right? And for a lot of people that are switching, the PMP is one of the best translators of experience, is one of the best proxies to let companies know that your stuff, project management. And just recently I was speaking to this lady who was a teacher, and then she transitioned to project management. So she was able to apply just what's the word now? She was able to just give me a second. I'm looking for the right word. She was able to represent her teaching experience as project management, and then she got approved for her PMP. She took the PMP, she passed, and now she has, she's working as a PM, as a project manager. She's switched jobs and worked as another project manager. So right now she's a full-fledged project manager. On top of that, she's a thought leader in the project management space, and she's now coaching a lot of people on how to transition, right? So this all started with the PMP. So if that is not, if that's not there, I find that it will be difficult, right? So I guess my point is the PMP is not perfect. The PMP has to cost money for it to be relevant, and many people don't see the PMP as a well. Let me not speak for many people, but I don't think many people will see it as a ripoff, especially because if it's an opportunity for you to increase your income, and if it's an opportunity for you to transition into the project management space, I think many people see it as an investment rather than a cash grab. So that's my take. I don't know. Curious to know what your thoughts are.
Why are there other organizations not allowed to use their, certifications? Only PMP is recognized. There's other organizations that teach project management, but they're basically ignored around the world, and only PMI is allowed to use their trademarked, project management professional PMP certification, and basically all other certifications by all other organizations are not recognized. So I just find that I understand PMI is about 10 times larger than the next largest organization, but there are other organizations that teach project management, but the PMI has become a gorilla that just sort of steamrolled over the other organizations. So I'm seeing other organizations pop up to sort of counter this, of like, hey, we need to learn how to do project management, but PMP and PMBOK is so daunting. Like I said, I was also an accidental project manager. I got thrown into it for oil and gas. Here you go. It's like, okay. So that's how I came up with my very first glossary. That's how I learned that profession about, my niche in oil and gas. I put together a glossary. So I won. First one I did, it's 320 pages. I don't even know how many definitions, but I just wrote down every single word. So there's other organizations. Why is it only PMP that is recognized?
Yeah.
It's just a question that I have. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. It's just, why are no other organizations allowed to use their certification process that this person has read our materials and understands it and gets a cert, but it's completely ignored?
Right. No, and I guess my response to that will be, who is preventing people from certifying with other organizations?
It's HR departments. It's HR departments, this is
Okay.
You have a PMP. It's like,
right. And my contention is that there's a reason for that, right? So if we believe in this, okay, just free competition, right? There's a reason, like there's so many other certifications, and there's a reason why the PMI is looked at as the gold standard, right? So I don't know if this is the fault of PMI. I think maybe quite the opposite. Maybe this speaks to just the value of the certification, as opposed to this being something against PMI. And I mean, we also have other more niche down certificates, like in the agile space, cybersecurity and all of this. So I think that there are other certifications, but it just so happens that this is what companies recognize, right? And I think there's a reason for that. So again, I'm not a spokesperson for PMI, and I don't believe that PMI is perfect. The PMP is not perfect, but I think that the project management, like I really love the project management profession. I think that when it comes to execution, like nobody can do execution like us. Like we are the best when it comes to execution, right? And I think that we need to have that standard, like just like every other serious profession out there. Engineers have their standard. The legal profession, they have their standard. So I think we need to have ours, right? So we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So there are things that PMI can improve, and I think that maybe forums like this is an opportunity for us to voice our concerns. But I think that in general, PMI is doing more, is adding more value than the opposite, right? So that's my contention.
I would agree. I'm not anti-PMI, although it may come across, because we basically set this up as a debate, and you chose the title for this, not me, but I agreed with this. Like, yeah, okay, this is going to be fun. So what I'm trying to do is, my main contention is, I believe project management has become overly complicated, and I would like to get it back on track so new project managers can learn how to do this. But it's getting progressively more complicated and getting progressively harder and harder to actually be competent at project management, simply because it's gotten so complicated. And PMI seems to be going after getting more money by getting more people certified as PMPs. If they really want to increase, 50% more in the next 5 years, that's all money coming in. So
yeah,
why can't there be a happy medium someplace of why can't you come up with a simpler way of doing this? Rather, if this just keeps getting more and more complicated year after year, edition after edition, at some point it's going to be so complicated, no one's going to be able to do project management anymore because it's so vast.
Right. And I think
more rules and more stuff. You got to scale back. And corporations, the larger the corporation, usually the more rules and regulations. The IRS is a perfect example of this. It's like nobody can actually understand all the rules and regulations in the U.S. tax code. It's insane. But corporations, whenever something goes wrong, they add a new rule. And they keep adding new rules to try and prevent, the next thing happening again every time there's a mistake. But it just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. So at some point, you need to go back and simplify things and scale out and rethink. So it would be nice if PMI could actually do a fresh look and rethink the whole concept of project management and start a new book, rethinking everything in a new moment of time or whatever. And it's like, let's scale this back into something that's more manageable, so you don't scare off new people from learning how to do proper project management. That's
So,
kind of my
so,
bone of
so,
contention here.
so Tom, can I can I push back on that? So now
Oh,
between
yeah,
the within the sixth and the seventh, so the sixth edition had about what 700 pages.
I think
The
so.
seventh, yeah, the seventh edition has about 300 pages, and
Okay.
I think that so I think that that's what they just did with the seventh edition, right? So
Maybe I'm wrong.
So well, no, I'm not. So just to your point, like, okay, maybe they need to rethink, overhaul things, and I think that that's what happened between the sixth and the seventh. And now a lot of people are complaining that, I mean, it's so fluffy, it's too abstract. You know, we're not dealing with processes anymore. Now we are dealing with, domains, models, and all of that. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't really studied the seventh, and yeah, I had, I took my PMP a while back, and I think I used the sixth edition, right? But I think, just to your point, like, let's rethink. I think that's what PMI attempted to do in the seventh edition. And from my understanding, like the editions come out every 4 to 5 years. So another one is coming out, like the eighth edition should be coming out either this year or next year. And what I expect to see is that they will take feedback and a lot of the criticisms against the seventh edition and improve, and we will have the eighth edition, right? So
good.
Sorry.
That's what I'm trying to do here.
Okay. Yeah. So I think
to improve it, to get it back on track.
For sure. So I think that that's exactly what the organization is doing, right? So just to go back to your claim that, okay, you think that PMI, is just making it more complex, more bloated. I think what they're trying to do is that they're trying to just evolve and to keep the profession relevant, right? So that's my take. Now, are they going to get it 100% all the time? No, but I feel like they're heading in the right direction. They're directionally accurate. So I know, we've gone on for some time. Before I go to questions, I'm just gonna do a quick plug. So, by the way, if you're listening to us on YouTube, please do subscribe. If you're listening to this on we're also on Spotify, we're on Apple. Please do give us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed this. And also, if you need help landing 100 to 300K PM role, feel free to reach out. You can, there's a link on my bio, or you can just send me a DM. If you're looking for PMs, if you're a company looking for PMs, it's something that we can also help you with. We can help you with having great talent in a few weeks. And yeah, I gave Tom the opportunity to also promote anything that he wanted to promote, but he says no. He just wants to have a conversation. So, sorry?
I want to get PMI back on track.
You want to get PMI back on track. So very noble. But I would say, please follow Tom. I really do love, Tom, that you're very vociferous with your opinions. Like, you don't hide your opinions. So I really love that. That's why I thought, we should do that. Now, before we should do this, so I'm just going to jump to the question now, and then we can wrap it up. So let's go to, so many comments, Tom. All right. Apologies if I can't go through all the comments, but I am just going to pick and choose some. All right. So Mark said, but that doesn't make her a great project leader. So this was when I was talking about the person who transitioned from teaching to to project management. She took the PMP, and 100% certification is not doesn't equal competent, right? But what I think certification does is that it gets you in the door, right? It gets you through the door, if I should say that. So certification gives access to people that might not necessarily have had access. People that, for example, they come from different backgrounds, like the teacher, or people that that may be migrated to this country, right? So because what that does is that it tells employers and hiring managers that, okay, this person this person has a certain baseline. So the PMP is basically a signal. It's not replacement for skill, for competence. It's just a signal. It's just a way to be able to, I guess, translate transferable experience, right? So maybe one way to put it is that the PMP doesn't make you great, but it gets you through the door so you can prove your greatness, if I can put it that way in sort of dramatic terms. But thank you for bringing that up.
And what's the results of the poll? I think I lost.
No, we're going to do that towards the end after the question. So would you recommend folks looking to practice? It's an open platform. I don't know what Praxis is. So Tom, do you know what Praxis is?
What?
Yeah. So if anyone knows what Praxis is, you can chime in. All right. Thank you. Rahul Jain says the PMI should offer discounts if you already hold a PMP, and the PMP can be used as a prerequisite for another certification. Okay, that's a good point. Tom seems to agree. I see you shaking your head or nodding. Sorry. All right. Let's see. Jesse says PMI is invested to create the gold standard in project management. They also invested in building in brand building awareness. Hence, organization use the PMP to yeah. So that was the point I was trying to make. Like, it's used as a shorthand, right? Because they trust the PMP. All right. Thank you for chiming in. All right. So Noah saying, sorry, catching up. PMI POCP stands for Project Management Office Certified Professional. I see. It's a certification offered by the PMI that validates your expertise in leading and shaping PMOs. I see. This certification demonstrates your ability to drive strategic value by understanding unique needs challenges. Okay, that's pretty interesting. I didn't know that this existed, so I can't quite comment, on this.
I helped set up PMOs before, so yeah, that's a separate body. So just like there's project management, program management, and there's different levels. So the PMI has a whole bunch of different books, which you could, when you pay for the annual membership, you're able to download these PDFs of all these different books.
Right. All right. Awesome. Let's go to another question. And while we're doing that, I'm just gonna put a link so that we can just do a closing vote, to where you stand. And I'm gonna share my screen so that we can vote while we're going through the questions. Just give me 1 second. Let me manage this. All right, and keep your questions coming in. Let's see. I'm gonna go next. Okay. Let me share my screen now. Okay, so now you can see my screen, and if you can vote, so please vote on the second poll, which says PMI is ruining project management after. So the first one
was comments hiding the part of the poll.
Sorry, say that again.
This comment is on still on the screen, and it's hiding half of the poll.
Oh, I see. Let me hide that. All right. So
there we go.
So yeah, I'm sharing my screen. So please do, go ahead and vote. There are 2 polls, so please vote on the one that says after. All right. So this is the previous. Don't vote on the previous. Vote on the one that's after. Okay. So while we're doing that, let me go through more questions. Like it or not, PMI has established a gold standard in project management world. Okay. Yeah, we talked about that. Mark shared the Praxis framework, okay, which is based on the works of many great thought leaders, especially that by Adrian Dooley. Okay, interesting. I didn't know about Praxis. I learned something new today. All right. If you have more questions, or if you have anything that you would like to chime in on, just mention that. Tom Ford says, essentially, Tom, you're saying, why can't people take the test? And if they need help, pay for training. I'm not sure I get that. So that's what Tom is saying. Essentially, Tom, you are saying, why can't people take the test, and if they need help, pay for the training?
Oh, hi, Tom. I know this guy. Yeah, see, the thing is kind of I wouldn't mind actually taking the PMP for the 6th edition. I don't like the 7th edition. I just don't. And I've spoken to other project managers as well, but they're too scared to say anything about this because, you know, they'll get in trouble or whatever. So I still use the 6th edition of PMI's PMBOK. I do. But if I have it to take the PMP now, it's all revolves around the 7th edition. We'll see what happens when the 8th edition comes out. I'll probably chime in with my opinion on whenever the 8th edition comes out, and we'll see if there's a new rethink on this. I don't know.
Right. Okay. Amazing. Let's see, Rahul. I think PMI puts too much value on a degree. Interesting. And not enough on experience. How does a degree in philosophy make you a better PM than someone with a trade certificate? Interesting. What do you think about this, Tom?
It's hard. I don't know. I've been, well, you can see I've got gray hair. I'm over 60 years old. So it's a little late in the game anyway for me to go back and try and get a PMP cert. And I'm not interested in getting it for the 7th edition. Maybe I would be interested in the 8th edition. I have to wait and see what happens when the 8th edition comes out. But currently, since I don't like the way it's being structured with the 7th edition, I would do it for the 6th edition, but not for the 7th edition. So I have to wait and see about the 8th edition. So you can't put a price tag or a value or a cert on experience. So I understand, you know, getting a PMP cert, it's supposed to get you in the door. But on the other hand, clearly I have gray hair. And if you take a look at my resume, it's like, see all the stuff that I've done. It's like these rattled projects I've done all over the world. But apparently that doesn't count for anything, which is just kind of strange.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, my take on this is what I'm struggling with is the point that PMI puts a lot of value on a degree. So I guess do we really mean like a college education? So I guess I'm struggling to understand what we mean by a degree, or do we mean, you know, certification?
Basically, PMP is being treated such as similar to a college degree, and it's not.
Gotcha. Okay, that's an interesting point, and I mean, I wouldn't expect PMI to do otherwise, right? Because their main product is the PMP,
correct? Right.
So I think that just like any governing body, like they would do that, right? But maybe the question is now for companies, like are companies putting too much emphasis on certifications as opposed to experience? So that would be my take on that, right? Please don't forget to, you know, please vote, you know, while we're going through some of the questions. So I'm just going through the.
Clearly, I have not changed people's minds in this discussion. I'm still lost massively here. Oh well, I gave him my best shot. It was a fun discussion, and it's nice to hash these things out. So I've said my point of view, and people disagree. Okay, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, so, no. Yeah, no, Tom, I really love that you are very outspoken, and I think that, you know, you, like I mentioned before we started recording, I think that a lot of the concerns that you have, many people have them. So, but they're not just voicing it, right? So I think that you are the voice for many of the silent voices. So I really do appreciate that. Not many people can just, you know, be transparent with their opinions.
So they tell me they don't want to speak up because they're worried that they're going to get, you know, quote unquote, in trouble.
Repercussion.
So I know this. So it's just, okay, then I'll be the voice. And clearly there's other people most people disagree with what I'm saying. It's like, okay, I'm fine with that. I've made my point, and okay, majority wins. Okay, fine.
Yeah. No, this was not supposed to be really like a.
I want to
Sorry.
point out, Mark Rosner, I did not choose the word ruining.
Yeah,
those
yeah,
were chosen, and I said, yeah, let's go with that. Let's have fun with
yeah.
this.
Yeah, no, this was supposed to be like a just a healthy, robust conversation, and yeah, yeah, ruining, yeah, maybe that might be overstating it, but yeah, yeah, no, I think this was fun. Thank you all so much, for tuning in. Thank you for engaging in the conversation. Tom, thank you for coming in. Please do follow Tom. You might not always agree with what he says, but I think you would find that he would stretch your mind, and he's open to debate, and you can disagree with him. You don't have to always agree with him. But yeah, thank you all so much for chiming in. This was fun, and speak to you all soon. Bye now.